Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Tools for Perseverance. This is Dr. Jessica Wright, and we are on the second of 3 sessions about staying connected while working virtually and working remotely. So I'm so excited to talk about this. Today's topic is really about what are the digital tools that can help us to stay connected, and how do each of the tools work, and where are they best used. And then the last session, we're going to be talking about things that we can do as humans to help stay connected. So this is very much about the technology, this session, and then the last session is going to be about the human side of all of it and what we can be doing. So to get started, we are going to be thinking about the idea of these tools as if we are sending virtual hugs, virtual connection, virtual ways to feel integrated, interconnected with each other while we're working remotely. All of this content is Dr. Molino has put together, and her team has put together this phenomenal research on computers through education and learning remotely. And then there's a whole subsection about how it relates to working remotely. So that's where all of this comes from, and I'd be delighted to share with you. So there are 6 tools, types of tools rather, that are really valuable for helping us stay connected, according to the research. So we'll be talking about each of them individually, but blogs, social networks. Never a dull day when recording a session. There's always an ambulance or a motorcycle or something as we're going through these. So blogs, using a social network, file storage and sharing, which is really interesting and very important, a forum, communication systems like email and chat and things like that, and then Wiki. So let's talk through each of them. So blogs are one of those things that you might think of as just being for a personal use, right? And that's really essentially a lot of us have most experience with blogs in relation to personal things that we're interested in outside of work. But within work, blogs can be a really interesting way to express a deeply thought out idea or opinion. So I highly recommend using the blogs on LinkedIn. So if you're not on your LinkedIn account, there is a blog feature which allows you to write, and you have then the opportunity to write something about your professional experience, about the work that you do, that is then out there and shown to the world, that demonstrates sort of just how passionate you are about your job, and just the depth of knowledge that you might have in your field of expertise. So if you've never considered using a LinkedIn blog, I highly recommend it. So next are going to be social networks. And so social networks are incredibly valuable to making us feel and stay connected. Obviously, we use them in our personal lives, but when it comes to our work life, it's really, really valuable to be able to use a platform professionally. We have a whole class on this, how to use social networks to help promote your clinical and research career. But essentially, they're incredibly valuable to see what else is going on out there. And having a separate social networking profile that is just professional is going to be really valuable here. And that way you could be on something like Twitter and following other people across the country who are interested in the same idea. In the research, they saw the most interaction, student to student and colleague to colleague across this. I always log into and get very active in my social network whenever I'm attending a conference. I'm always tweeting, I'm always engaging with the conference itself, and it has yielded some really valuable relationships. And so I think keep that in mind as you attend lectures or other things that are happening where people are across the nation or across institutions are invited. If you're going to a webinar where there are people across the institution, spending time tweeting during that session is going to do 2 things. One, if you've been to any of the Science of Learning, actually tweeting about it while it's in session is helping your brain to file that content away and remember it better. And so instead of it being seen as not paying attention, you're actually paying more attention by, quoting the content and sort of cementing it in your brain that way. And the second is connecting with other people that are engaged in the same experience that you're in at the same time. And so this can be really great, especially for people that you don't know personally, that aren't in your team, that you don't have their emails, you just happen to be in the same place at the same time. Okay, so file storage and sharing. This, although it gets sort of it's sometimes seen as more of a boring task, is actually incredibly valuable, incredibly important, because when we are not physically present, we all need to have a common place to put things. And actually, when we have a common place to put things, a common environment to go into and to be part of, then it really it makes a difference so that we can all be on the same page, especially if we're collaborating on a project. We all want to enter the project and look and say, okay, here's where I keep my work log, here's where I keep this file that we use every day is going to be over here, and this folder is never really going to get used except for on this particular account. So having a shared understanding is really important. The way to do that, especially if you're starting to work on a new team, is to either create a video where one person's explaining, here's where this is, here's where that is, or when you're on a call, someone share their screen and everyone collectively go through and say, here's where we're going to put this, here's what this file name is going to be, here's how these folders are going to work. It makes the work itself so much more collaborative, because if you know that everyone is logging in and seeing the same thing and has the same understanding of what to do and when to do it and where to put it, it's one of those things that facilitates group work extremely well. So making sure whatever the system is, whatever the file system is, make sure everyone is on the same page. So forums are really interesting, and when I teach courses that are semester-long courses at a university, I always use a forum to have ongoing asynchronous conversations about different topics. This is really valuable when you've got people logging in at different times, but you want to make sure that everyone chimes in. Having even a social question, right? So if there's a place, there's a forum, you'll see this in Teams. So Teams has got a lot of these features sort of built into it. A lot of the features that we're talking about, each of the 6 technologies that facilitate communication, Teams really has a lot of it. And so you can log on and have these asynchronous conversations, which make you feel like you're part of something. You're part of the ongoing conversation at whatever time it is that's possible, especially when you have people working across shifts at different time points. It's a really valuable thing to be able to have, ongoing conversation, even if it's social. And in fact, we'll talk about this more next week when we talk about the human side of it, but creating deliberate social questions of saying, like, who's got cute memes? What is the funniest meme that you've seen, or the funniest picture of an animal, whatever it is. Even if it's frivolous and sort of a separate thing, creating those platforms are going to give people the opportunity to replicate what is really hard to replicate when we're working remotely, and that is those informal conversations that are, quote, held around the water cooler, right? This idea that, like, we are all we're all in the same place, we're all here. Being able to recreate that virtually is going to be really important, because that helps to create trust in the teams. It helps to create familiarity with people and familiarity with their reactions to things, which then yields better productivity when you're working all together. So highly recommend using forums. And then communication systems. You obviously need to have something that enables us to be able to call or video chat at the same time. Email is probably the most researched form of a communication system. And one of the things that we find about email is that it's not linked to higher productivity. So more email and more responding to email is not linked to higher productivity. And yet it makes an individual feel like they're being productive even when they're not. So having conversations, having a quick voice call on through Teams or through another platform is going to be so much more efficient than sending 7 emails back and forth about something. Now, having said all of this, one of the things that professionally is incredibly valuable is if there's a crucial conversation that you're having, if there's something that is incredibly important that you need to have documented, obviously email is the way to go, because a voice call or a video call is not necessarily going to be recording that. So if it's something that you want to have a record of later, obviously using an email is good. Now, if you have a conversation that is incredibly valuable, incredibly something that you want to have recorded with someone, and you agree to something in a via voice call or via video call, and you want to make sure that it's recorded, that that's what's said, sending an email immediately after you hang up and making sure you document, here's what we said, thanks so much for the call today, here's what it is that we agreed to, I'm so looking forward to working with you, here are the details of what the next steps are as per our conversation, is a great way of creating a record of something that needs to be documented after it happens naturally during a voice call or a video call. All right, last but not least, I think we're on the last one, wikis. So obviously everyone knows Wikipedia as a source of information, but a wiki is a collaborative writing tool. So if everyone's working on a document, or everyone is working on let's say everyone's working collaboratively on a research paper that needs to get written, having everything in a wiki allows everybody to be editing and co-writing at the same time. Now you'll just have to be careful. Different wiki platforms are going to allow you to restrict or enable different people to edit, and so it doesn't record, it doesn't do like a track changes where you can see what has been changed in the past. And so if there are, regular saving is highly advised. So regularly making sure that you've got a copy of it saved just in case someone makes an edit. But it is a very efficient way to get papers written. It's a very efficient way to get any kind of collaborative writing done. All right, these are the best digital tools for feeling connected that we've been talking about, and they allow us to have a sense of a common place, a sense of common work. And if you remember from any of our workshops or lectures on teamwork in healthcare and how teamwork and team training helps to save patient lives, you'll know that having a common goal and feeling like you're all working towards the same goal is going to be one of the factors that enable the most productivity out of the teams and the most resiliency when those teams encounter challenges. So, my question for you is, which tools do you prefer to use to stay connected? We all have our preferences. We all have things that we like or that we don't like. What tools do you prefer to use to stay connected? And how's that working out? If you want to share with us, you're welcome to email us at academicrequests@houstonmethodist.org. We look forward to talking with you again. Our next and final session in the series on staying connected is going to be about what we can do, the personal things that we can do to feel like we are still connected. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.